Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Heartbeat, your daily Inter Miami podcast. And today we are looking back at last year's summer transfer window on the 1-year anniversary since La Presentacion, the night that Inter Miami introduced Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets to the MLS world, to Miami, to South Florida, as a night of celebration that kicked off this new era of Inter Miami soccer. Let's spend today looking back on how this came to be, the steps that brought Inter Miami to the brink of signing Lionel Messi, how they had to shape the roster in order to be able to do everything that they ended up doing in that transfer window. And as we're about a few days away from this summer transfer window, what can last summer window tell us about what Inter Miami might be willing to do this summer window? And in order to tell this story right, we have to rewind all the way back to November, December of 2022. That's around the time that we had to make a decision about Alejandro Pozuelo. As you guys may remember, we brought him in the summer 2022 window. We traded for him from Toronto. He came into Inter Miami and was revolutionary. He helped Gonzalo Higuain become a much better player. And he was just a key cog in a team that needed a player like him. But of course, he was a DP. Inter Miami already had Gregory. We weren't sure what was going to happen with Rodolfo Pizarro. And so it was imperative for Inter Miami to let Pozuelo go if they had plans on doing something big. And we had already heard rumors. David Beckham went to go see Lionel Messi. The Moss brothers met with Messi's father. There was this idea that Messi and Inter Miami were connected. And I think it became relatively clear that Inter Miami was at least in conversations with the Messi camp. Whether they were 100% confident or 20% confident, I'm sure they won't tell you the truth. But ultimately, Inter Miami felt that they had to prepare their roster in order to add a player of Lionel Messi's quality and standard, and hopefully Lionel Messi. Once the summer window opened, he was under contract with Paris Saint-Germain at the time. And because of that, we knew his contract there was going to run out, but there was conversations he was going to re-sign a new contract with Paris Saint-Germain. Later that spring, Cristiano Ronaldo went to Saudi Arabia, and then they decided they were going to spend that summer of 2023 going out and buying a ton of big names, and they did that with Karim Benzema and N'Golo Kante and 25 other huge name players, and they wanted to make Lionel Messi the keystone of that project, offered him reportedly $1 billion. That was always in the cards, and something that you could understand would be a real big pull for someone like Lionel Messi to go to that league. And then, of course, there was always this romantic idea that perhaps Lionel Messi would go back to Barcelona if there was a way. And I know Barcelona had their own financial troubles and ended up that being impossible. But with all of those possibilities, the idea that he was going to come to Inter Miami, a club that wasn't going to pay him as much as Saudi Arabia, that he didn't really have a connection to, always as a fan felt like, okay, it's a dream. And at Inter Miami, we have the freedom to dream, but it was a dream that had a little bit of substance, but you could always see how it could fall apart. And so for Inter Miami to bet basically the entire 2023 season on landing Lionel Messi was a huge gamble, especially if you were a fan that was a little bit more pessimistic about their chances of signing the greatest player of all time. And so they go into the 2023 season severely undermanned. They let Alejandro Pozuelo go. They have Gregory as a DP. They have Rodolfo Pizarro back after his year at Monterrey. But ultimately, it was a team lacking a lot of creativity, needed offense from the midfield. Defensively, it wasn't ready to go at the beginning of the season, and we ended up having to trade for Kamal Miller in order to shore up the team defensively. And ultimately, it wasn't a great team. They were worse because of some injuries. Gregory had a long-term injury. Jean Mota had a long-term injury. Eventually, Franco Negri, Coco John, Nico Stefanelli, all had long-term injuries. And so we were playing severely undermanned for a long portion of the season, a few bright spots, but for the most part, it was a really, really tough season. We had 15 points through 16 games, 5 wins and 11 losses. So really not a fun start to the 2023 season. And it all went back to the fact that we bet our 2023 season and we bet the roster on being able to attract someone like Lionel Messi in the summer of 2023. Again, it's not going well. On June 1st, Inter Miami fires Phil Neville after 15 points in 16 games. And there was more victories, but they all happened to come in the U.S. Open Cup. But regardless of that, it was long losing streaks where the team never felt good, really, in the MLS for a month at a time. 2 6-game losing streaks, really bad vibes at Inter Miami. And so everything was bad until right around the end of May, when the tide started to turn. Lionel Messi decided he wasn't going to go back to PSG. That had become a little more clear at some point during the spring. And then the Barcelona situation was never really able to materialize because of their financial situation. And so all of a sudden, momentum starts building for Inter Miami to really sign Lionel Messi. And that came true. Again, sort of a freedom to dream moment, if there ever was one. On June 7th of 2023, Lionel Messi does that interview where he announces he's going to be signing with Inter Miami. It was incredible. And even though for the 48 hours or so leading up to that announcement, it looked like this was going to be the decision, just hearing it from him and just having it be confirmed by all of the media sources that said he was going to go to Saudi Arabia for that $1 billion deal, or had been reporting on the PSG contract extension for months. All of that was gone, and it was Inter Miami. And as an Inter Miami fan, it was, of course, incredible, game-changing, life-changing. And as far as being an Inter Miami fan, you could tell that there was going to be a before Lionel Messi and after Lionel Messi when it came to the Inter Miami club, right? But still, it wasn't sunshine and rainbows. There was this exciting new venture that was getting ready to kick off, but the team still wasn't good. There was some bright spots. Kamal Miller had come in after not starting the season with Inter Miami, came in from a trade with Montreal. Benjamin Kramaski, David Ruiz, and eventually Ian Frey all started to make a name for themselves. The Javier Morales era didn't go particularly well, if I'm being honest, but eventually we were linked to big names. And so it was becoming a lot more fun. Like I said, Lionel Messi announced he was going to come to Inter Miami on June 7th. And that opened the door for everything else that Inter Miami wanted to do or was able to do last summer. It was June 18th. That's when Sergio Busquets sort of announced or finalized that he was going to come to Inter Miami. A few weeks later, Tata Martino, who we had a very good idea was going to be Inter Miami's new coach, that becomes official by the end of June, at least in terms of the commitment. There was rumors about Angel Di Maria, Luis Suarez, Jordi Alba, big names, and even some more ludicrous names like Neymar, or who again was at PSG and needed to leave PSG that summer. There was huge names linked to Inter Miami at that time, and it was incredibly exciting. Ultimately, on July 6th, we hear that Jordi Alba is going to come to Inter Miami. Then it starts pivoting to the U22 players that Inter Miami could sign. And again, we still had DPs on the roster, so it wasn't exactly clear what was going to be the deal with them. And so for Inter Miami to do all of this, it was this exciting new world where every day felt like something amazing could happen for this club. July 8th, we got linked to a U22 from Newell's Old Boys named Brian Aguirre. He was sort of a winger. On July 11th, the news broke that we were going to sign Diego Gomez. July 13th, you guys may remember, that was the the day Messi shows up at Publix and people catch pictures of him at Publix waiting by the shopping cart or just after checking out. That was a whole thing. So the next day, Inter Miami signs or announces that they're going to sign Facu Farias. And also that day they released Rodolfo Pizarro, buy him out of his contract. And so it became clear Inter Miami was going to make it work within the rules of the roster. Um, all of that leading up to July 15th, which is, just over a year ago now, Inter Miami officially signs Lionel Messi. Tata manages his first game at Inter Miami. And then July 16th, 1 year ago today, Inter Miami hosts the Presentacion, the unveiling of Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets. There was this huge event at Drive Pink Stadium. Lots of musicians, lots of celebrities. I remember the rumors about who was going to show up and who was going to play at a concert were kind of outrageous, but at that point, anything seemed possible. And so heading into that July 16th event, it was, we knew Messi was here. We saw him at Publix. I don't remember if we had gotten that picture of him from that pizza place yet, but basically he was here, but he wasn't with Inter Miami yet. And so that July 16th event was the beginning of Messi holding up the pink, the heartbeat kit, Sergio Busquets right there, the Moss brothers, David Beckham, all the fans really got to embrace this idea that, wow, Lionel Messi is here in Fort Lauderdale in our stadium, wearing our shirt or holding up our shirt. It was honestly an incredible moment. Apple TV did a whole special for it. And again, it was just really incredible. That was 1 year ago today. Everything that's happened with this club has happened over the last 12 months. Since this day, 1 year ago, Inter Miami went on to win the Leagues Cup, went on to sign Luis Suarez and Toto Aviles and Julian Gressel, and made it to the CONCACAF Champions Cup for the first time and won the first round of that cup and went on a huge winning streak, and we're fighting for the Supporters Shield. Everything that's happened to today really started on this day 1 year ago with that event, Messi and Busquets holding up the Inter Miami Heartbeat kit. And so I wanted to make a special episode today acknowledging that event, acknowledging the kickoff of the new Messi-led Inter Miami era, because it's been a lot of fun to cover. It's been a lot of fun to watch. It's been a lot of fun to talk about. And this team has gone through so much, and it all started really on this day 1 year ago. July 19th, a few days later, that's when Diego Gomez officially signed with Inter Miami. But it was July 21st. That was the first game that we got with Lionel Messi available. And as you guys may remember, that was the opening game of the Leagues Cup. It was Inter Miami taking on a club from Mexico, but it wasn't the Inter Miami that had struggled all season. It was the Inter Miami that had Lionel Messi in it. And listen, he hadn't played in a couple months because he was with Paris Saint-Germain, and rather the European season ended, and he wanted to go take his holiday after the PSG season ended. Same thing with Busquets. And so they weren't necessarily in game shape. They hadn't practiced with the team more than a time or two. I do remember all the media that was at his first practice and how he was laughing it up with Josef Martinez, and just the excitement for this game was just so palpable. And Apple TV did an hour-long special before the game. And then we played Cruz Azul. And I specifically remember this game because I had just finished a move. Literally that day, I moved into a new place. Only things in my apartment were boxes and a mattress. And so me and my girlfriend finished packing, unpacking for the day at 7 o'clock or 7:30 Eastern or whenever the game was, just so we could watch the game and then shower and go to bed after a huge move. And so I remember this so vividly. Inter Miami goes into that game, Messi on the bench. Robert Taylor gets a goal in the first half. Cruz Azul, very effective, was able to create a ton of opportunities. Drake Callender, honestly, probably the man of the match in that game. But the star showed up in the second half around the 50th minute. And we weren't sure how long Messi was going to play. Was it going to be 10 minutes, 15, 30? And it ended up being about 40 plus. In the 50th-ish minute, Lionel Messi comes to the sideline. The whole crowd, you can tell, is on fire. It was just this whole circle. This is the MLS, but this is Inter Miami with Lionel Messi getting ready to check into the game. It was incredible. Eventually, Cruz Azul does equalize, but Inter Miami was there, and right in the last few minutes of the game, Lionel Messi gets an opportunity on a free kick. And I remember looking at my girlfriend as we're watching this game on nothing but a mattress on the floor. And, she's never watched Lionel Messi. She's not a huge soccer fan, but she likes Inter Miami, I guess, now that I've gotten her into it. And I look at her and I go, there's no way. This would be too magic. This would be too incredible. There's no way that Messi is actually going to pull this off late in the game to win the game against Cruz Azul in the first Leagues Cup game we've ever had. And yet, as he sets up, we kind of just sit there quietly and just watch Lionel Messi introduce himself to Inter Miami with a banger of a free kick, sends Inter Miami up 2-1, sends them into the knockout rounds of that tournament. And all of that magic, the Leagues Cup run, signing the U22s, everything that we've done, winning our first trophy, having our young kids establish themselves, getting national team call-ups for your goalkeeper and your attacking midfielder, and young players going to represent their country. All of that began on this day 1 year ago when Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets held up that kit for the first time as Inter Miami Herons. And so I thought this day, this episode, required a little bit of a special memory to think about and remember and appreciate what happened on this day 1 year ago. As always, guys, I'll be back tomorrow. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you then.